Welcome, everybody. I'm Laura DeFranco, the CEO of Brave Healer Productions, where we have a mission to change the world one brave word at a time. And today we're celebrating one of our newest books, The Ancestors Within: Discover and Connect with Your Ancient Origins. I have four of the amazing author experts here with me today to share their wisdom. But first, you guys, I wanted to say a big thank you to Amy Gillespie Doherty, our lead author. Amy is bringing together the world's leading experts in ancestral healing. And in this series of powerful books, you guys are going to be treated to the stories and tools and total amazingness that is partially this author team, but 25 total authors. I'm so excited to share these guys with you, and guys and gals and magical people with you today. So welcome, authors. What's up? Thanks for being here. I'm glad you guys are here with me today. Star Studanovic is a Reiki master, yoga instructor, and guide of rituals. I have Rosemary Levesque. She's the owner of Second Nature Healing, offering healing and training for light workers on their journey. Frank Byram is a scientist and technologist and has spent 4 decades on a spiritual journey, the last few of which have been focused on encouraging deep self-healing. And Devi Grace is a seasoned near-death experience facilitator and embodied leadership trainer who supports awakened luminaries to integrate all of their lifetimes and initiates global messengers in the ancient art of and science of masculine and feminine alchemy for the cultural transformation of divine human consciousness. I get a trophy for saying that bio, Debbie. Okay, so listen, you guys, let's hear about this. Star, start this party off. Tell us about your amazing chapter.
My chapter is number 16, entitled With Every Beat of Your Heart. And it gives you a simple GPS for one of many ways of connecting with your ancestors. My story, this never would have happened without a heart attack and open heart surgery. I've always worked from my heart, but I don't think my heart was completely open till this. And what made me realize, good Lord, getting emotional.
This is what this is.
The importance of it was how I was treated after this event. I've always been the caregiver and the person taking care of someone else, and the tables were turned. When you're at home with an oxygen tube and a walker, after you've been a yoga teacher, it's very humbling. And when your tribe ends up bringing you food and coming and giving you Reiki and coddling you and doing all kinds of beautiful things for you, it makes you realize how much the heart matters. It's not just a pump. It's really your whole life. And one of the major players in that is one of your guests today, Rosemary Levesque. She's my teacher and mentor. And the night before my surgery, I was absolutely terrified. I've never been that scared in my entire life. And she did a very quick impromptu Reiki circle via phone. And it was 6 hours before the surgery. I went into that surgery not terrified. I went in that surgery knowing I was going to come out the other side. The upside of that is I'm in better shape than I've ever been in my entire life. And I used to dance professionally. I literally kick ass in the gym now. But the most important thing is I work a whole lot more from my heart. And I'm learning to listen from my heart and hear. It's also created different ways of learning, because when you're in a heart lung machine, it changes something in your brain. So it's a little bit about learning how to learn again. And that's actually a whole lot of fun. So my story is about how do you connect with your ancestors and what questions might you ask them? I've already outlived most of my ancestors in their lifespan. Everyone died before the age of 70, and I'm 74. So my hope is to change that mindset and change the fear factor and the overriding fear that goes with any kind of illness, that you can change that energy. You can live a long and flourishing life, but you've got to do it from your heart. So that's my story.
Thank you, Star. You guys, let me say thank you to all of you as well, just for saying yes to this project and for stepping up to share not only your amazing stories, that real, raw, sometimes very real pieces of you that you're putting out for the world to read sometimes in some of your cases for the first time ever. I know I've got some seasoned writers in this group, but it always blows me away when y'all are sharing stories for the first time and you had that courage to do that. Thank you for being so amazing. And for really doing that with the spirit of helping other people. And I can feel yours, Star. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Rosemary, let's move to you. Tell us about your amazing chapter.
Hi, thanks, Laura. My chapter is number 7, The Song of Your Soul, Remembering and Healing Spiritual Ancestry. And the reason why I wanted to speak about song and sound for the soul is because I firmly believe that with sound, we embody everything. We embody words, we embody thoughts and feelings, and we have all of those vibrations from our ancestors as well. And I'm walking testimony to that, I believe, because for many years, even after I became a biology teacher, this issue that I had for many years didn't surface until I started doing energy work and teaching classes in energy healing. I was choking on my words. I was giving presentations and having to cough all the time. I would not have been able to speak to you now without a cough several times, without doing the healing work for myself and going back through the lineages with sound. And so I became a certified vibrational sound master teacher, and that's when things started happening for me. I started remembering, I'll say, personal experiences. They're probably more other lifetime experiences where I could remember inhaling too much smoke from being burned and walking up the scaffolding for what do they do on scaffolds? they kill people. So I was remembering all of these things, and my cough went away. I find that totally amazing that we can do that we remember it, but not from the pain point of view, but from the empowering point of view. That was me then, this is me now. And so what tools do we bring forth for healing in the now? And I'm all about that. I'm not about having to learn something that you need a degree for, a PhD or some sort of medical degree. I'm all about giving people the tools that they need in their own home, in their own families, right now, that they can use right now so that they can have healing experiences of their own.
Thank you, Rosemary. What I love is the personal example of the cough. I know that might sound like small to some of our listeners, but y'all, if you have something and you just don't even know what's possible in terms of your healing yet, and this topic, this book is going to open up your world to the possibilities. And I loved, Rosemary, that you used that particular little example of this. You couldn't have been doing it without this cough. So somebody's going to be listening and they have that cough.
I know.
Yeah. And
so
so
many people do. It's the disconnect between the heart and your connection to soul and your most vulnerable place on your physical body.
Yes. Thank you, Rosemary. Okay, Frank, I want to hear about your amazing chapter next.
Well, my chapter in the book, thank you for the introduction, by the way. My chapter is chapter 12. It's the power of your ancestors' prayers and ultimately accessing that healing energy and hope from them. And this goes back to a search that I've had in my life. I think a lot of times our spiritual practices come from our parents. And then later in life, they become ours or not, right? We sort of have to sort that out at some point. And this was part of that journey where a family member had been really estranged from the family. And we all have that in our family, unfortunately, and had come back to help my mother do some yearly canning. And it was odd that they were together. It was odd that she came back. There was no real reason for her showing up and helping. And she was there about a week. And Mom asked, why? And, that's kind of an odd thing, because why would anybody come back after so many years? And what struck me is I'm sitting on the edge of the garden, hot late summer day, sipping lemonade, and I look back over the house and I realized that the prayers of my father, the prayers of my ancestors were still active. My dad had passed about a decade ago before that. And so while we think that, while we might have a little bit of inkling about that, I think most of us, I certainly do a lot of times, think that the prayer is not answered immediately or pretty short term. It's not answered, right? It just goes unanswered. And I realized how long he had prayed. And I realized how that prayer was being answered and was still powerful and active. And so I became very interested about what else did he pray, right? What did he pray for me? What did he pray for others? And what did my grandparents pray? What did other people in my ancestors pray? And started doing that deep spiritual search. And that's what my tool is about. My tool is about adding to your practice. And a lot of what I focus on with individuals is a daily practice. I practice the martial arts and Qigong, and my grandmaster passed down this one key thing, is that practice is daily. And the foundation of sort of your spiritual life, in a lot of ways, your soul's life and whatnot, is that daily practice, that time that you're working on it and helping people establish that. And so my hope is in this, that if they don't already have a practice, that they'll establish one, that this might be a great first exploration about your family's prayers. And another thought, if you don't have a parent like that, maybe it's an aunt and uncle, maybe it's a mentor, but there's someone in your life who made a difference. It's likely they were praying, even if they might not be sort of in a traditional religious sense. They certainly were placing energy in the universe that you, I think, can still connect to. And so that's my story. That's the story you'll read in this. And there's a tool to help you make that connection. And again, it also is about the heart. It's about touching and reaching it at the heart level, because that's the only place you can reach those prayers, quite frankly, that I'm aware of.
I think your example is one of those things that can help people understand what's possible. Not everybody before today thought of a prayer as having continued energy and spirit. And so I absolutely love having that way of thinking about that. And wouldn't you have a whole new intention if you knew that was for, you want to say anything else about that?
Yes, I mean, exactly. I think the thing that struck me as I started connecting not just to my father's prayers, but now my mom has passed, and her prayers, and my grandparents' prayers, and I actually knew my great grandmother in her prayers, I started to see my spiritual life change, in the sense that maybe this doesn't align with the current sort of dogma and thinking of spiritual practices these days. But I realized this long lineage of people who took the risk to come to this country, and the prayers that have stacked up that I'm benefiting from. And I also feel the sense of my mentors who've prayed for me, and my sense of how I pray and continue to pray. So there's hope in saying, even if the person I'm working with or encouraging or mentoring, even if the change doesn't look like it's coming, right? Or it's slow coming, or maybe not coming, my prayers are stacking up with other people, and they're still active. And that power matters. And in a day when we don't feel powerful and feel disempowered, quite frankly, to be able to access that and know it and believe it and then embrace that energy is something that I think is missing, despite the fact it has been around spiritual traditions for as long as we can remember. But it's just not in vogue, I guess, for lack of a better word. So
thank you, Frank. Frank hit on a couple of things that I'm actually going to come around to all of you for in just a minute. But Debbie, I can't wait to hear about your beautiful chapter.
Thank you, Laura. Well, I'm just going to begin by sharing my gratitude that first and foremost that we're having this interview as a group, because all these three other authors that have spoken are very much resonating, right, with my themes. What I would add to my chapter 19 focus on birthing the original human divine tree of life is that I entered into this discovery process with the primary intention of grounding full soul embodiment as an answer to my ancient ancestors' prayers. So I entered into what you would call the ancestral council. It's a great honor and privilege to be able to sit with all of them when I crossed the veil a couple of times, clinically called near-death experiences. So I really got to talk to them and hear what these outstanding issues were, not just in my family genealogy. There were other ancestral councils sitting with us that were reflecting on kind of the status of the one human family, which is why I brought it to this universal shamanic symbol of the world tree that unites all these different branches of all our different family systems, and the healing that's needed in both the masculine and feminine, or maternal and paternal sides of our family's legacy that's been kind of building up over the centuries, particularly with all these world wars. People really don't understand that all of these World War I and World War II conflicts have really devastated the human family system. And so I got sent back from the other side, not once, but twice, to really assist the healing of all of these universal children with our great mother and great father. That stems from African shamanism. There's a work on the planet called Family Systemic Constellations that Bert Hellinger borrowed from the mystics over there in the motherland. And it basically shows that if we're having issues in our life, it stems from what we're dealing and addressing from the paternal side and or the maternal side. And so basically they were saying that if we bring in our original divine parents, because I am a Gnostic minister and an Essene bishop, in these lineages, they talked about the original supernal mom or supernal dad, and that this original foundation of this absolute love from the great mother and the absolute love from the great father can then step in and assist our human parents and our human grandparents to go through the deep, deep cellular healing process for the release of all that cumulative trauma. So it's very much energy medicine, and it's also the purification of the programs that all of this global conflict has, taken off the battlefield and into our family residences and into our companies and into our corporations and into our healthcare and also into our economics. So ultimately, it's the healing of the family heart at its foundational level, which then translates into the rebalance of power for us collectively moving into, what some call the great shift of the ages. I'll take a pause and then let Laura kind of see what stands out to her.
Well, first of all, isn't it really cool to be able to play in the sandbox with people like this? Okay, so, and also just as you guys are listening to everybody, I always feel every day that I wake up, I feel what an honor I have to be in the world at this time and a part of this. And I had been hearing from healers over the years in my own, multiple decades worth of a journey that there are even a small percentage of us who, with an intention of that love that Debbie talks about, and that is going to be enough. It's going to be enough to start to shift. And you see all my friends nodding their heads here. So that's exciting to me, right? Is there anything else you want to say about that, Debbie?
Well, in my framework, I call the love the best of the sacred feminine. And I also combine it with what I call the grace of the sacred masculine. And so if we heal, right, the wounds of our mother, we bring that love forward. And if we heal the wounds of our father, we bring the grace forward. And really what people are saying collectively in many continents is that the human species is at a crisis point. And a lot of people have said that, you know, they don't feel like the love has enough power, right, to get us through that threshold. And so when we bring in what we call the yin and yang, right, or the day and the night, when you bring in these two primal energies, you actually have a unified field. So the love with the grace, the masculine with the feminine, it creates that fundamental threshold of like successfully getting through whatever the gunk is, you know, whatever the density of those challenges that we've been bumping up against lifetime or generation after generation. It's like the miracle juice that gets us through the birth canal as a species, which is why I talked about birthing the original divine human, because that's full soul in the body can meet any, right, perceived setback or international challenge with infinite creativity and resilience. And then they're cheering us on because we are the answer to their prayers from thousands and thousands and thousands of years of struggle.
So
living into freedom.
This is what I've heard over and over, y'all. And so like past interviews before this group, it's coming up every single time, and I love it. And it is, they are there cheering us on. We are not alone. We're here together. Okay, so I have the next question I want to come around to all of you for, but I'm going to start with Rosemary for this one. So it is super clear after reading through your chapters and getting to know this, even this topic as a whole, that ancestral healing and the work that you're all doing has been a transformational tool for all of you. So Rosemary, start me off by giving me an idea of one of those aha moments. Listen, you guys, I know you could pick like a 10, but give me an idea of one of the aha moments that you had in terms of diving into this field of ancestral healing.
I'm going to show you a tuning fork.
Show and tell. I like that.
So this is a tuning fork that is tuned to the heart frequency. And I had a client on the table. I was newly trained in using tuning forks, newly, say, had a few months under my belt, a bunch of clients. And she's face down on the table, and I'm using the tuning fork as a pendulum. So you see there's something attached here. And general movement is like this, you know, a nice balanced movement with the sound going. And what was going on with her was, and I'm making it go like this so you can see, it was huge circles like this, then it would stop and huge circles go the other way, and it kept doing that. And she's crying on the table, crying, crying, crying. And I'm just the observer at that point. As people doing healing work, we're facilitators, we're observers of this because the healing is not coming from me at all. But she was having this profound effect. And likewise, with another area of the body, instead of moving at all, it was, I'll just say, dead in the water. It wasn't moving. And so I called up my teacher and I said, what's going on? He said, oh, that's phase 3. And I thought, I want to know now. So the aha moment, to answer your question, Laura, is that as we are watching these indicators, as we are observers in using energy as tools, we get to witness the transformations that people have when they interact with these tools and interact with us. And I kind of knew that to some degree anyway, but in using sound as a tool for facilitating that, that went even deeper. It went deeper, and it taught me how to entrain with the sound as well. So I would end up saying, wow, I feel like I could use some energy healing. I need a client. So I'm doing work on the client and I'm hearing the sounds as well. So that was my aha. Thank you.
I love it, Rosemary. Thank you. All right, Frank, what was your aha in this field of ancestral healing?
I think the thing that strikes me, I live in a technology world, and I've worked, in a technology world, and I've lived in it. And to some extent, we kind of ignore our ancestors, and we're just so immersed in the identity of all these things that we lose ourselves. And what I think as I've aged over the years, I find those little moments when you're like, oh my God, I just said what my dad just came out of my mouth, right? My mom just came out of my mouth, or that was something I heard, and you get to these points and you realize that you are, or in this case, I am repeating what my ancestors are doing and done. And sometimes those are not great things. And I love this, what was sort of this theme going on, because there's a chance to go back and to heal that. And what I think strikes me about that possibility is that it's not just healing it for me and maybe, my grandson or my daughter and grandson. I think it's really healing it in a reverse. I don't think time exactly exists in the way we think about it. And so if I can heal that, I'm actually offering backwards healing, if you will, to my father and his father and generations that didn't heal. And in this day and age, that generational curse that, you see in the biblical and people talk about so much, there's an opportunity to heal those things. And that is what we're releasing into the planet. And that's the message of hope I think people need, because I think people are stuck. They're dying in all this technology and, just unable to move forward. And they need to connect. And part of that is disconnecting. And part of that is connecting to the spiritual and the soul and the energy. And again, back to the practice, you got to do it. You just can't, you can read about it, but you'll never discover the power if on a daily basis, you are not working with those energies on a daily basis, if you're not connecting to them, because that's where your energy strength comes. That's where it comes from. And that's my hope, is that people not just take my chapter, but the whole book and develop that practice.
Well, thank you. Thank you for talking about one of the missions of my book, specifically Brave Healer Productions books, is I love the stories. They are healing and people need to be in a practice. And I also come from a martial arts background, Frank. So it was, the practice becomes a discipline that retrains and does magic over here, but only if you're in the practice. I have a question for all of you about that in a minute. So thank you. The bigness of what you said about healing in all directions is, I want our viewers to really pause with that and understand the possibility there. It is huge and powerful, profound. Okay, Debbie, when I think about you and I think about somebody who has had near-death experience, I only chuckle to myself when I'm about to ask you, like, what was your aha? Because you've had some experiences that kind of go beyond an aha. But what was a moment for you? Share one.
Well, I'd be happy to, because again, it's inspired by our group field. I would encourage the listeners to open up their hearts right now to what we call quantum physics. My aha moment isn't necessarily what you would call the crossing and going into the great beyond, into those ancestral trees of life on the other side. My aha moment was the integration of all that back down into what you would call the root system, right, of every atom and every molecule. And so there's this lineage of the great saints where they talk about, right, the holy men and the holy women that go into an ecstatic, right, or orgasmic experience with the divine in all capital letters. And I don't care what you call that, right? Great spirit, source, the origins of all that is. And that energy has an investment in the healing of our entire species. So in quantum physics, right, it's not just 7 generations back. It's also like meta parallel 7 generations forward. Or for those of you that believe in other timelines, like 7 octaves. I mean, 7, 7, 7, 7. So when I hit that 7, 7, 7, 7, those that follow sacred numerology, ancestral healing point, my body went into a full-fledged Kundalini awakening just to integrate back into my physical existence. And all of this energy and life force that was stuck in the body of all my ancestors, like all those dams or walls or, barricades from all their trauma, it all just surrendered and started gushing rivers of light right through my whole body. And I went like, oh, this is the catharsis that we have been waiting for. So I didn't just have that experience as an individual. I went into nirvana, right, with the whole planet, with every branch of my ancestral family system. And it's like the voice said, it has begun, right? The reconciliation or the redivinization of matter has begun. For those of you that want, more spiritual terms, it's the breath of life, the Holy Spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh. I mean, I was consumed by the divine white fire. And that's not just for me, it's actually available for each and every one of us. And the whole point is our parents, quote unquote, at the source are here to gift us. The ancestral healing is to remove the blocks to receive that gift. So it's about creating the safety and the trust to let go and let that love and grace like consume us. And then it can create physically tangible miracles. Like we're here to be in the technology and the age of quantum miracles. And that is like multi-dimensional healing beyond human comprehension. And I promise you that's on the docket. Sign up, read this book. It's all the authors. It's not just one of our chapters. This is a series, and it's actually all 4 series. It's a whole transmission. Every single voice has like a piece of this recipe. And when you bring it all together, we are, offering a huge, right, portal awakening in the flesh, in the body, where it matters.
I love that. You're giving me the goosebumps of the bigness of it. And also tying y'all are going to hear things from our authors that will, you will start to light up, puzzle pieces will start to fall into place. And the idea of possibility, things that you've just never even imagined. I love this, you guys, you're amazing. Star, tell me a little bit about this for you. What was an aha in your journey? And unmute, girl. Gotta unmute. Wait, Star, let me unmute you first. Unmute. She's talking. You're still muted, Star. Oh, don't you just love the zooming? Try one more time, Star, to unmute yourself.
How's that?
Yay. Okay,
Yay!
go for it.
Okay. There have been pieces of it most of my life, but what I realized through this last event was I was seeing the wrong way. I was seeing what was visibly in front of me, not the community that would support me, that was my ancestors. That seeing it with your heart is very different than just absorbing it through your eyes, that there's this whole hidden community that we don't access, and they have centuries of wisdom. So having different aha moments, and then a big one, because apparently I don't listen well. I have to be hit upside the head or something, but now I really get it, that all of this has to do with this entire lineage that goes all the way back to the beginning. And it's all part of us, and we are connected, the good and the bad. And I don't want to put a label on that, but the what's happening in our world is a disconnect. And if we can help people learn to connect, the disconnect will go away. And I think there's a huge hunger for that. People are looking for it. And I also think some of what's going on in our culture of tantrums and people, for instance, on the airplanes having a toddler's fit about wearing a mask, I think it's simply a teenage phase of going through maturity until they reach a point where they do realize they need something else and to go back to go forward.
Yes. You're making me chuckle about the mask on the plane. Oh my gosh. Okay. Okay, for all of you. So I want to get through two more really important questions, and I want all of you to answer them, but I'm going to give you a big challenge because we're headed into the last few minutes of this interview right now. Okay, so the challenge is you got to do the speed dating version of your answer for me. So and Frank, you know, what's really cool is you've actually mentioned both of these questions and some of your answers when you were talking earlier. So let's see how you guys can do. So give me the answers in a sentence or two, even though I know that's so unfair. So Frank, I'm starting with you for this next one. It's about the awareness. You talked about it. All of the tools that you're offering in the book, all of the authors, are awareness tools. Anything that helps us understand ourselves, the world around us, can give us these gifts of awareness. So what I want to hear from all of you, Frank, first, talk to me about what your personal practice looks like every day. You talked about the practice already. So give me one example of how that looks for you personally.
It starts in the morning. It's a tea meditation. And when I can, I get out with the birds and the ducks who comes visit me in the morning. And it really is this time of sort of meditation and opening my heart. And it's a time of stillness. It's a time of setting. It's a time of making sure there's no pressure to be done quickly. And it's listening. And ultimately, that's the foundation. I go into a little bit more detail in the chapter and then ultimately on my site, but really it's the practice. And I want to say to anybody who's looking at this or reading, it's discovery. I mean, it's exciting to discover what's going on inside your head, inside your heart, your ancestors, and around you. You got to disconnect from all the BS, for lack of a better word, that's going on that steals your attention. As long as your attention is in that awareness will not come. And it's the practice that allows that awareness. And once I start in the day, I take it into the day. And so, not two sentences, but that's how you take it into practice, is how you take it as a foundation into the day.
I know that would be a challenge. And these topics you all teach, you're master teachers on all of these topics. Yeah, these guys could talk all day long about any one of the questions I've asked today. So that is why you're going to drop down to the show notes after we're finished and take the next step with these amazing authors so that you can come into their world and ask them questions. And they're so generously there for all of you to do that with. So please remember to do that. Debbie, what does your daily practice look like?
Well, in the chapter, I talked about the soul tree. And so each and every morning, just like Frank, I get up and I practice vertical alignment. And I take all this life force, all this vibrant, vital energy that's in what you would call the infinite spectrum, which I call the substance of the feminine. And I pull it down into the structure of the masculine temple vehicle of my body. And I make sure that my male and female is vertically aligned. It's called a vertical divine marriage. And then grounded and rooted into the morphogenetic, big word, unified field of nature, right? So it's not just enough for me to come into oneness with my own male, female. My spirit inside of this instrument for my greatest contribution that I've been sent here on assignment to fulfill. It's also got to be partnered with the larger nature's global intelligence system, if you want to call it that. And then I get most of my instructions from the wisdom at the heart of the planet, And that gives me my guidance of what each day is.
Thank you, Debbie.
Mhm.
Y'all, these practices are powerful. I know you are feeling it as you're hearing everybody talk about it. Star, tell me about what your practice looks like in the day-to-day.
Starts with breath. That's my connection with everything. And there's a meditation and a yoga practice and a Reiki practice. The connection is with breath. The beginning of the actual physical day is putting my feet on the ground, usually barefoot outside, and connecting with my mother, asking for being grounded throughout the day, and a prayer of gratitude, the fact that we're even here and able to walk on this earth. So if I start my day with gratitude, with breath, and with grounding, I know the rest of the day will be great.
Yes. Oh my gosh, no doubt, that beautiful energy of gratitude. And it's just making me want to ask the viewers, how do you start your day? How do you set yourself up for that beautiful day, right? Gratitude is a beautiful go-to. Thank you, Star. Rosemary, tell me a little bit about yours. You're going to close us out today, girl.
I would like to offer the idea of integration. So there are many practices that we all have, starting our day, ending our day, and I can go into all of those practices that I do. What I'd like to suggest is that you build ritual and ceremony into your lifestyle. So if you are about to eat, for example, you're doing some
Grateful.
blessing to your food. If you are awakening, do something movement with your feet before your feet land on the ground. If you are getting ready to go to bed, there's a prayer or an intention that you have for the night that when you wake up the next day, you're ready to go again. So you're setting your intentions and building in these ceremonies or rituals don't have to be complex. You don't have to have the incense burning and you don't have to have the tuning forks sounding. You have your voice, you have your body, and you can build these habits of ritual into your lifestyle. So when Facebook was down the other day, what did I do? I went outside, I lay in the grass in the sun, and I was just there connecting to Mother Earth again. So I built that ritual that I like to do in the summertime, and I took an opportunity for it. So find the opportunities for this integration in your life.
Thank you, Rosemary. To all of you today, thank you so much for what you do in the world and for being here today to share it. Y'all are powerful, amazing beings, and this book is making its mark, this whole series of books and all of the incredible author cast. So y'all, the last question, which we don't have time to go around for, I'm going to help answer it today. So it was about these last couple of years, and boy, oh boy, have we as a whole had an interesting time. I'll just say that. So some of you viewers might be feeling still a bit down, still a bit stuck. And the question today for the authors was about how does connecting with our ancestors help you right now? Well, you've been hearing little bits of that from each one of them today. But the thing that I want to say that's at the top of my list is that when you open yourself up to the possibility of ancestral connection in all of the ways our authors explain to you today, it can help you right now. And it can help not just you right now, but it can help the world right now. That's how big this is. And so I'm just going to remind you to drop down and check out the websites, take the next step in exploration, and get the support that you need. Reach out. That's the one thing that we can't do for you. You got to reach out, and then we're going to be there for you. You're not alone. Oh my goodness. So one very exciting thing is that on October 27th at noon Eastern, we're going to be celebrating this beautiful book with a live stream launch party on the Brave Healer Productions Facebook page. So that's down in the show notes for you as well. Please join us. We're going to have all of our authors there to share their wisdom and celebrate this beautiful book. And of course, if you're listening after that date, well, that means the book is ready and you can go get your copy on Amazon. And lastly, today, y'all, please remember your words change the world when you're brave enough to share them. It is time to be brave. See you next time, everybody. Thank you, authors.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.